Welcome back to our show. It's always about freedom every day. Today, the freedom may well be my own that I'm fighting to protect. Joining me now live from our Calgary studios is Tom Ross. Tom was my lawyer, some of you may know, when I was prosecuted by the Alberta Human Rights Commission for daring to publish those Danish cartoons of Mohammed. And he's helping me again today defend me and the ethicaloil.org website against the Saudi menace. Tom, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Ezra.
Tom, just to set the mood, just to get things right, I'd like to play that 30-second ad, and then I'd like you to talk about your experience in dealing with the Saudi law firms. For just 30 seconds to take a look at that gorgeous, gorgeous piece of filmography again.
Sure.
Fact. Last year, we bought over 400 million barrels of oil from Saudi Arabia. We bankrolled a state that doesn't allow women to drive, doesn't allow them to leave their homes or work without their male guardian's permission, and a state where a woman's testimony only counts for a half of a man's. Why are we paying their bills and funding their oppression? Today, there's a better way. Ethical oil from Canada's oil sands. Ethical oil, a choice we have to make.
Tommy, I don't know about you, but I smell an Oscar there. Just gorgeous. Now, we heard a tip from Telecaster that approves ads that the Saudis don't share my aesthetic taste. They don't like the ad. You got on the phone to Rahul Agarwal, a lawyer for the Saudis who works for the monster firm Norton Rose. Tell me what that phone call was like. Just, you know, I release you from any solicitor-client privilege. Tell the world, Tom, what was it like when you dialed up this Saudi lawyer?
Certainly. It was September 6th, and we had, as you identified, had some information that they had been threatening certain broadcasters if they continued to run the ads. So I contacted him, identified myself as representing Ethical Oil, and asked him if we could obtain a copy of these threatening letters. He appeared to be surprised that I had his contact information, didn't really disclose anything, certainly didn't deny that the threatening letters had been issued, and indicated that he would get back to me. Sometime later that day he did, simply indicating that they were acting in this matter, and he understood that I was acting for Ethical Oil, and that they were not going to share any letters between them and third parties.
Now,
so that was the first step.
Now, I read earlier some of the exchange of email between you and him. I mean, you didn't give up, though. You probably sent him over the course of the next week, what, 2, 3, 4 more letters? How many times did you try and find out what exactly his beef was with these ads? I mean, I know he didn't like it because he represents the Saudis and they don't like criticism. They don't allow it in their own country. Did he ever indicate to you what might be legally wrong or what his legal complaint was against this beautiful ad? No,
he didn't. And of course, that's the difficult thing, Ezra, is it's tough to fight in a vacuum. And the information has never been described to me or to Ethical Oil as to what specifically the concerns are. And we have asked for that at least 3 or 4 times by me. Starting on the same day, on the 6th of September, I emailed back indicating, bear in mind that he had asked us the aggressive question of whether we were prepared to accept service on behalf of Ethical Oil.
That means, now, service, just for folks, I mean, I'm a lawyer, I know what that means. That means when you sue somebody, you can't just send it in a letter in the post box. You've got to tag them with the lawsuit or give it to a lawyer who will officially say, yeah, we got it. So service, when you say, will you accept service of a document, Tom, that's basically saying we're going to sue you, right?
That's what it would indicate, exactly.
Now,
so on that day, we wrote back and said, we'll need to get instructions on that, but in the meantime, would you please send us the letters that we understand have been issued? And again, the response was, no, we're not prepared to do that. So a few days passed and we considered the next steps. And early last week, I again requested the information that I had before because he indicated he would get back to me on that as well. And I further indicated that, yes, we could accept service of any legal claims or proceedings, but it would be helpful, and we asked, would they please essentially give us the courtesy of identifying what it is that they think is legally inappropriate about the ads.
Now, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me, you're giving a really straight legal answer. I'm more a political guy, Tommy, and I just see it's BS. They really didn't have a legal case. Can you answer me this? I mean, obviously, it's in accordance with broadcasting law. It was approved by Telecaster. It remains approved to this day. Talk about defamation law. I mean, we didn't name any person in there. We talk about the Saudi government. We have a picture of their currency with the Saudi king. In defamation law, can a country sue you for bad-mouthing it? Like if I say, oh, those Americans, I hope we crush them in sports. Like the country of the United States cannot sue in court in Canada for defamation, can it?
No. This really is something that has changed over the years with the advent of the Charter, but prior to the Charter, yes, it was possible for governments, at least local governments, to sue for defamation. For the last 30 years, to the extent this has been addressed in courts, our courts have said, look, we live in a country with free expression. It would be anathema to that, it would be contrary to that to have governments capable of punishing critics by suing them. And it would result really in a situation where only the well-heeled, the very rich, could afford to take a chance of criticizing government. That obviously is contrary to our democratic principles. And although those cases have been local, there's no reason whatsoever to expect that a foreign government would be allowed to sue for defamation when a local government can't.
Well, and of course, there's always the defense of truth. I mean, we all know women can't drive in Saudi Arabia and the Sharia is the law. But we only have about a minute left, Tom, but let me ask you this. I mean, the threats to me, they make me laugh because it's just a bunch of Saudi sheiks shouting into the wind. But when a lawyer in Toronto for Norton Rose, big fancy law firm, threatens CTV and CTV says, yikes. I mean, really, I don't think CTV is pro-Sharia law. They just look at Norton Rose, the big bully law firm, and they say, you know what, we don't want to spend $250,000 defending running an ad that we're only going to make $2,000 about. What about the inducing CTV to breach the contract? What about the fact that other companies in Canada are collapsing in the face of this Saudi bullying and are actually complying with this fatwa?
Well, that's the frustrating part of it, of course, and that's one of the reasons we had written later last week indicating we had understood that these threats had been made to third parties. We clearly have seen that they've had some success, and part of the threat was that there was some alleged legal dispute between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ethical Oil. And if those allegations are being made, clearly there's an obligation for them to identify what this alleged legal dispute is, and please let us know. Without having that information, of course, you're fighting in the dark.
Last question, Tom. You defended me a few years ago when the Alberta Human Rights Commission prosecuted a fatwa against me by some radical imam. You stood firm there. I called that lawfare, a slap suit, strategic litigation against public participation, that this radical imam was just trying to beat me up using the law. Is this, in your opinion, as a lawyer and as someone who understands the law, is this another case of lawfare financed by the Saudis?
It's tough, Ezra, to really comment on that without knowing exactly what the allegations are, but it certainly has that appearance at the moment.
Tom Ross, partner McLennan Ross, my personal legal bodyguard who has so far kept me out of jail. I thank you very much for appearing on The Source today.
Thanks very much, Ezra.